Welcome back to Real Turkey channel. This is Atilla Yeşilada. You know me already. I've done over 500 videos. I've been missing in action once again, and guess why? My voice is gone because I'm a cigarette smoker. The only habit that I truly regret in my life. So much for, public service broadcasting. Today, we're going to tackle dark arts, and the topic is the dark secrets of Turkey's MTEP, MTEP. What is MTEP or MTEP? Medium-Term Economic Program. This video consists of 3 parts. A, the content of medium-term economic program and why it's used, etc. The standard stuff that you would get in any broadcast about such a subject. 2, the dark secret revealed. I'm not going to leave it to that. It's going to be like 4 or 5 minutes into the video. And finally, how it will be used to change the world. This is Atilla Yeşilada, presenting for Real Turkey channel, and we're starting. Okay, the Turkish government has essentially 3 documents in which it explains its policy intentions. The budget standard every year, spending, taxes, borrowing, who's going to get screwed, who's going to get big tax benefits and tax shelters. Then there is the 5-year development plan. Again, in most developing countries, there is one which sort of explains the long-term intentions of the government. And between those two is an annually revised 3-year medium-term economic program. This has been the practice for the last 25 years or so since IMF first arrived in Turkey in the 21st century. And it's essentially considered a very critical document because it gives governments projections, intentions, as well as policy matters that don't refer to the budget, such as, structural reforms, legislative changes, etc., etc. The medium-term economic program is sort of like a guideline for the businesses and investors for them to see how the government intends to manage the economy, what its priorities are, and of course, most importantly in Turkey's case, what problems it intends to solve. Now, let's start with the content of the medium-term economic program. This is a 70-page document in standard font. Half of it is devoted to explain GDP projections, inflation, balance of payments, current account deficits, that is, employment, exports. And the other half is measures to achieve the targets. Some of them are structural reforms, thoroughgoing reforms. I'm going to cut this part very short because, as I say, if you're interested in Turkey in any way, I'm sure you have read about this. Essentially, the 3-year economic program foresees over 4% GDP growth per annum and intends to reduce inflation to single digits in 2026 and current account deficits to about 1.5% over the same period. And of course, budget deficits will also be cut. Why am I not wasting too much time on the content and analysis thereof? Because everyone knows these are just pipe dreams. Turkey cannot grow over 4% per annum and reduce inflation and current account deficits simply because Turkey's optimal growth rate is estimated at around 3.5%. Anything faster than that would add to inflation and current account deficits. Its impact on the budget deficit is not that clear, but it would probably reduce the budget deficit. So out of 3 goals, out of 4 projections in the medium-term economic program, 3 of them are inconsistent with each other. But this is not really the point, okay? I don't think there is any government which would project 0 growth to reduce inflation and current account deficits. This is why you use independent central banks who are not bound by voters' whims, and they can execute monetary policy which would crimp growth to improve inflationary conditions. Now, aren't there any caveats? I mean, is there no possible way for Turkey to grow over 4% and reduce inflation and current account deficits? By the way, inflation right now, the official CPI is around 60%. and the current account deficits are expected to reach $50 billion or so this year, roughly 5.5% of GDP. Yes, there is a caveat. It's called a supply shock. What's a supply shock? The simplest explanation is, for instance, Brent oil prices declining to $20 per barrel. They are at $90 per barrel right now. Why is that a supply shock? Because we use oil, natural gas, and their derivatives in almost everything we produce. So if the cost of oil goes down, the cost of producing everything goes down. The economy can supply more at any given demand or price level. Another one, of course, is massive amounts of FDI, which is part of Chinese growth story. FDI is foreign direct investment. People coming in, buying your factories or starting new factories, employing more people, bringing technology, etc., or discovery of a huge natural resource base. If these supply shocks can happen, yes, Turkey can reconcile these inconsistent objectives. Do I see one in the horizon? Yeah, I do. It's not the standard supply shock, and I'm not saying it's going to happen. But if it does, it could really change Turkey's fortunes. And this is where the dark secret comes. I'll here pause a second. I'm hoping to get some music copyrighted, but right now I don't have it. The dark secret is not in the content. It's not hidden between the lines or in the small print. Because in the way the medium-term economic program is presented, because the opening speech was given by no one else but our beloved, dear, and forever president, Mr. Erdogan. Why is that important? Because Mr. Erdogan doesn't like interest rates. He doesn't like tight monetary policy. This time in his opening speech, he advocated tight monetary policy and, in fact, credit controls to fight inflation. He owned up to the program. In past years, he showed no interest, either positive or negative. If the Turkish Central Bank were to raise rates to fight inflation or unstable currency, Mr. Erdogan would immediately disown this action, saying, well, I don't agree with it. I think low interest rates are the best remedy for inflation, but central bank is independent. And then the next day, the governor would be fired. So Mr. Erdogan owning this program is very important. Why? If you look at my past videos, you will see that I've been focusing on Mr. Erdogan's Uturns since the end of May, June elections. And these are in the positive sense. He appointed a very capable economics team, Vice President Cevdet Yılmaz, Economy Czar or Finance and Treasury Minister Mr. Mehmet Simsek, and the Central Bank Governor Ms. Gaye Erkan, Hafize Gaye Erkan if you want the complete name. Also, there has been changes in foreign policy, which I also mentioned in my Turkey and EU relations video down below. But since Mr. Erdogan is known for his absolute lack of any kind of principles, and he flip-flops as rapidly as a catfish out of water, of course people are asking, how long will these changes last? Will this guy stick with it? Because these things are painful, man. I mean, you got to raise taxes. When you raise interest rates, people can't buy houses or cars, credit cards go into default, etc., etc. And by owning the program, Mr. Erdogan signaled that he approves of it, and it has become part of his own policy. That doesn't mean he won't change his mind in 6 months, but the chances of him doing so is much less, simply because he is now responsible for the success of the program. Now, how is this document going to be used? Well, clearly the true objective is to guide, give forward guidance to Turkish businesses, to exporters, to banks, and to people who invest in Turkey either through factories or through financial assets. But actually, it's going to be used for marketing. Turkey needs hot money or financial flows. I mean, we need like 30, 40, $50 billion. It's not important, but it's a huge sum. And you have to create a story to attract this type of money. In particular, after 10 years of neglect during which we essentially kicked out foreign investors and truly abused their property rights. And the best way to do that is to write a medium-term economic program that tells them that Turkey has now embraced orthodoxy, and it's going to behave like any regular God-fearing or law-fearing actor in the world. But Mr. Erdogan owning the program is more important than the program itself, because he is the biggest question mark. I don't think anyone doubts Cevdet Yılmaz, Mehmet Simsek, and Hafize Gaye Erkan can deliver prosperity and stability to the economy. The question is whether Mr. Erdogan will stick with them. So now Mehmet Simsek is going on a world tour. I think as you watch this video, he's going to be in New York, and he is going to be the keynote speaker at an investor event, like 200, 300 investors. Then he's going to go to London and Tokyo, and he's going to market this document. And more than the content, he's going to say, look, guys, I have a mandate to get the job done. It's from President himself, the most powerful and the only powerful man in Turkey. So, give me time and give me some money. Can he succeed? Can he really bring the kind of money that would improve supply conditions in the economy and allow 4% growth with lower inflation and current account deficits? It's not that easy. Even if people buy the story that Mr. Erdogan is firmly behind this program and he's going to stick with it for the next 5 years, global conditions for emerging markets like Turkey have deteriorated. Higher Fed rates, Chinese economy stumbling, deglobalization, or the start of the Second World War, etc., etc. Money has been flowing out of emerging markets. But on the other hand, two major emerging markets are now out of investors' radar. These are China for economic reasons and Russia for political reasons, and these people have assets they need to invest. So Turkey is a feasible destination for these investments if Mr. Mehmet Simsek can do an effective marketing job. I'm really sorry. At the end, I think Mr. Mehmet Simsek or anyone else can't attract the kind of money that will allow Turkey to grow and fight inflation at the same time. But he may be able to get enough foreign funds to avert a currency crisis. A stable currency would somehow reduce the rate of inflation as well as help budget deficits, because we have a huge amount of debt. Most of it is indexed to dollars, as well as lower interest rates despite central bank tightening. And most importantly, of course, it's a confidence booster. If Mr. Mehmet Simsek can do that, and I think there is a good chance he can. I'm going to broadcast another video at the end of September to share with you my impressions of his road trip. He may stay in the job, and Turkey may have an honest-to-God, proper stability or belt-tightening or austerity program with structural reforms in the second half of 2024. Why not in the beginning, but in the second half? Because we have another elections in March 2024, this time for municipalities, and I'm going to talk about that in one of my future videos. I want to thank everyone who watches and comments on these videos. If you like it, recommend it to your friends who may be interested in Turkey, or, hit that subscribe button. This is Atilla Eşlada saying goodbye from Northern New York.